We always like to try and bring you something a little bit different, and here behind me is a very special boat indeed. This is the new Lancia Aprea 52. Now, if those names sound familiar, don't be confused. It's nothing to do with the Lancia car brand or indeed the Aprea Mare brand. But what it is a small family-owned boatyard that has been building boats in Italy for generations, and they really know how to do it. So it is a proper, full custom yacht design, and you can spec it exactly how you want it. You can choose the fabrics, you can choose the wood, you can choose the color of the exterior, and it is a beautiful traditional design. So back in the 1950s, there was a traditional style of boat called a Lancia Sorrentina, and this is a kind of modern day interpretation of that. So we're going to show you every single element of it because it is truly stunning. Now then, the fun starts at the rear. Just look at this transom. Such beautiful varnished teak work, enormous amount of tumble home in those top sides. There's great big flared bow. The whole thing is not about volume and efficiency and maximum comfort. It's about a gorgeous, beautiful, traditional boat, hand-built by craftsmen. And you can get a flavour of that everywhere you look. So if we move into the cockpit, just look at the thickness of the teak on these cappings. So it's not just the fact that it's really thick, it's also really wide. So you can sit wherever you like. It's like a wraparound seat that runs around the entire boat. And it's one of those boats you just want to touch and feel and sit down and just drink it all in because it's just such a lovely looking thing. Now look at the great big flare. You can see it in the internal mouldings here. And everything feels really solid. There's no veneers or fake bits. It's all great big solid chunky bits of teak. Got little pop-up lights. Look at the finish on that. Again, beautiful solid real teak. There is a big sunbed up here on the bow and a lovely little seat. But again, on a lot of yards they'd be working it really hard, squeezing in as much as they possibly can in terms of seating and convertible this and convertible that. There's no need for it. It's just space to spare. This particular one is used by an owner primarily just as a day boat. He already has a lovely villa in Mallorca. But when he wants to go out, he wants something that is stylish, comfortable, and feels like a piece of art. So here, for instance, is a pop-up teak table that just flicks up, locks into place. I think they call it the cappuccino table, being ever so Italian. The anchor's all hidden behind these chunky mouldings. Not sure if I can do it I can put it away one-handed, but even here, little lights. A couple of small sunbeds, but just look at the curvature on that. It is a thing of great loveliness. But it's also designed to be a very seaworthy, practical boat. So you can see we've got a big hard top coming over the top of the helm station. That is a full height windscreen. There's no option to have that cut down because they want to make it a really seaworthy craft. But look at some of the detailings here, just little elements like this. Grain running different ways, laser cut 52. No need for that, doesn't serve any purpose, but what a lovely thing. Nav lights, traditional, mounted there. And check out this, so big cockpit area, all covered, so the hardtop comes about halfway along, just to the back of that table, and then there's a sun awning that extends further beyond that. Big sunbed, very nicely protected. You can see it's slightly recessed, so it feels very safe. You could happily lie there when we're cruising along. And then this table is really something special. Look at this, it's a full custom-built table, marquetry inlaid into the surface, different types of wood. It looks like a sort of Escher print. It's really very special. Even down here, we've got nice little elements, got pop-up lights down there, got cup holders next to the sunbed, even things like the fuel cap. That's just tucked under a little lid there, lifted up. Just gone that extra mile to make it feel a little bit special. Really heavy duty deck gear. You can see we've got electric powered winches, great big stainless steel plates. So it's one of those boats that's built by people who really understand boating. They've been doing it for generations and they still do it just as well as they ever did. Traditional wooden boat hook, but also some really nice amenities. So we've got a really big wet bar here. Look at the thickness of those teak tops. I can barely even do it one-handed. Absolutely immense piece of woodwork. Stainless steel behind it. Full induction hob and grill. We've got fridges and freezers underneath. And there's one more thing here. There's an extra little detail which you might not expect on a boat of this kind of traditional design. And that is a high-low TV. If I look over here, I think I can see some buttons. If I press that button there, there's a good-sized TV, whirs up from behind the wet bar. So if you want to chill out and watch something, I won't go all the way, I'll pop that down again, but quite cool to have a TV that you can watch from that cockpit area. Right, just drop that down, then we can move on. So now let's come around and have a look at the helm station. Yet again, look at that detailing there. It really is a thing of loveliness. Now 4 individual helm seats, all with bolsters, all adjustable for reach. I can't really do that one-handed, but you can see. All identical. Really secure helm station. I mentioned the fact that it's well protected, and with these little side perspex screens you can see they're flared out a little bit, so the wind comes round and is then directed out and away from the helm. So standing here in the middle in front of the wheel, you are super well protected. And I'm told that he's been taken out in really rough seas and the whole thing stays beautifully dry with that big flared bow just sending sheets of spray out, but none of it gets back on board. Now the helm station got a carbon fibre wheel, very sporty looking thing. It is IPS drive, so twin IPS 800 drives, gives a top speed of around about 32 knots. Being IPS, it means there is a joystick control of that, so you can park it, berth it very easily indeed. Big Garmin screen, so you've got all the kind of modern technology you need, but you've got that traditional style and build quality. Even here, lovely little wooden locker for the keys. Don't know that it's particularly necessary, but how lovely is that? Little detailing there, not quite sure what's behind there, whether that's a speaker or a vent or something, but all done in that same lovely teak woodwork. Now let's have a look down below, because the custom building carries on in the interior. 4 steep steps down. Also, just look at that. Rather than using a sort of perspex moulding, it's a really heavy duty glass sheet door, double glazed, so really secure, really quiet, and it means that you can keep the air conditioned area absolutely properly insulated. Right, now the layout here is very much up for grabs. Being a custom built yacht, you can change it pretty much how you want. This has got a 2-cabin design, and once again, all the fabrics here, they're all Laura Piana fabrics, sort of designer Italian manufacturer. You can pick whatever colour you want, whatever fabric you like. Exactly the same with the wood. We've got several different woods going on here. That looks like a sort of pale ash colour. This, I'm not quite sure, that looks like walnut to me, but you can pick and choose any different combination you want. Now, this has 2 heads, 2 bathrooms effectively. This one is the day heads. Bottom of the stairs, exactly where it should be, very convenient. And even here we've got some lovely detailing, like these leather handles for those little locker doors. Little fabric blind, opening porthole. Now, this can actually be a 3rd cabin if you wanted. If you think, well, hang on, that looks a bit small, where are you going to fit a bed in there? And that is because there is a whole load of space behind it. And if I lift up this staircase here, I just need to undo that latch. The companionway springs up on gas-assisted struts, and you can see there is a great big storage area behind here. Now, at the moment, it's full of boat show gear, But you can see that that would link up with that dayhead space to create a small third cabin. But I think very wisely, particularly since this is mainly used as a day boat, it makes sense to just have the two cabins and the dayheads. Let me just lock that down into position. There we go. Now then, second guest cabin is in here. Once again, it's not the largest, that's not what it's for, but you've got a good lobby area here. I'm standing in the kind of lobby space. There's plenty of headroom at the entrance here, and then it drops down underneath, and there you've got twin beds, decent width. They look like about sort of 2.5 to 3 feet. Not full standing headroom down here, but there is enough to sit. You can just about sit under here, head, yeah, just about okay. There is a hull window in there, so you do get some natural light. We've also got a hull window up here. But once again, it's not really about volume, it's about style and quality. And even here, look at the kind of finish you've got on there, just those extra little level of detail. Worth pointing out that this sofa here has a fridge underneath, so you've got somewhere to keep your drinks cold. This table you can see is also on a high-low pedestal, so that drops down and you can have an extra occasional berth there. But the main cabin is forward in that big flared bow. And what a lovely thing it is. All that traditional craftsmanship. Again, we've got kind of Alcantara fabrics here. We've got more of that wood finish on the bulwark, on the bulkheads. More of those Laura Piano fabrics. Even got specific Lancia Aprea sheets. What a lovely thing. Right, let's keep going. There is, of course, it's not actually en suite because it doesn't actually link to the cabin, but it is immediately outside. There is the main heads compartment. Now this has a really lovely shower, proper separate shower cubicle, proper teak grating on the floor, nice teak seat. It's even a little window behind there, I think. Very discreet, very private, but does mean that it's kept well ventilated. Heads, big sink, plenty of standing headroom in here too. But there is actually one more cabin that is primarily a crew cabin, but we'll go and take a peek at that now. So, whilst we're here, I really should point out, look at the standard and quality of some of this deck gear. This is one of the pop-up cleats, and look at the solidity and the smoothness of that. What a lovely thing. And it does have the Lancia Aprea logo etched into it. Even these little fender buttons, rather than having fenders or rails that you have to tie onto, they literally just pop in and out using these buttons. And then the crew cabin is under this sunbed, there's access to it. So if I flip that cushion up and over, like so, lift this panel here, just need to get my fingers under there. Lift that up, there's a little retaining strut there, and then we can drop down. I'm not sure I can get down. Oh, hang on, I'm going to have to spin round to do that myself. Okay, fairly tight entrance, but here we go. We are now in the crew cabin. You can see we've got a single berth over there. That is about as ensuite as a toilet gets. Little bit close for comfort perhaps, but it does mean even on this 52-foot boat, you have got a proper separate crew cabin. Last but not least, let's take a look at the engine room. Lift up this teak hatch in the cockpit. Got a short ladder down. Rather convenient, this grab rail for the wet bar doubles up as something to hang on to as you make your way down. Now they're slightly narrowed treads on the ladder, so not the most comfortable thing to do in bare feet. And it's reasonably tight in here. There's a fairly narrow gap between the engines, but if I make my way down through that gap and then turn around, we can hopefully get a better look at things. So there we are. We've got twin Volvo D8 IPS 800s. They give a top speed of around about 32 knots, and it carries 2,500 litres of fuel. So you should get a pretty decent range out of that. It's hard to say exactly what it would be without testing it, but the owner seems very happy. We've got seawater strainers there. We've got fuel filters over there. Looks like a generator on that side. And then if we have a look round the corner, you can see back to the transom. Let's finish up this tour of the Lancia Aprea 52 sitting on one of these lovely teak capping rails. Now, if you're looking for the maximum amount of boat for the minimum amount of money, you have come to the wrong place. This is not a cheap boat. It's around 1.8 million euros just for the starting price ex-tax. However, if what you're really looking for is something that will stand out from the crowd, something that you can get involved in the build process of, you can help select the woodwork, the fabrics, even the layout of the interior, then this is a very interesting offering. You will end up with a very lovely looking boat with lots of handcrafted workmanship and something that hopefully you will feel good about for many years to come, because with that traditional styling, it's never really going to go out of fashion. As always, I'd be fascinated to see what you make of it, so please do leave us some comments, and thank you once again for watching.